Artisan automatically assigns numbers and codes for new items, categories, vendors, sales receipts, purchase orders, and so on. There are options for you regarding exactly how this numbering occurs. So before you start creating item records, we should consider how best to set these options in your particular situation. Item numbering is one of the most flexible options in Artisan. Each new item record is assigned a unique code. We call this the item code. You may have heard the term SKU, which stands for Stock Keeping Unit. In Artisan, we like it simple, so item code. Again, this is a unique code, so we can keep track of each item or product separately. So for vendors and categories, we also use a short code. Of course, we call this vendor code and category code. We create these codes so we can keep track of each vendor separately, but also to have an abbreviation that we can fit on item labels and on reports. Okay, so following along with me, let's click on Tools and then Program Options. From here, we choose Inventory Handling Options and then Inventory Numbering Schemes. So at the top of the list, we can see the vendor code numbering scheme. For example, if you have a vendor called Acme Balloon Company, Artisan will use the vendor's initials and might assign the vendor code ABC. If another product already uses ABC, Artisan will choose something similar. Or if you prefer, you could use the code Acme. It's up to you which one might be best. So if Artisan assigns the vendor ABC and you want Acme, just change it. Artisan will let you use that code as long as it's unique. For items, sometimes it's a good idea to build meaning into the code. So for example, you could take the vendor's code and concatenate that with a number on the end. So anytime you look at a product's label, you would immediately know who the vendor was. So if you start out with ABC0001, the number would increase for each new item record for that vendor. So why not assign Artisan ABC1 without all the zeros? Well, it's because of the way computers sort data. Without going into a computer science lesson, let's just understand that computers will sort ABC10 before ABC2, for example. So, to make sure the codes sort correctly, we pad the numbers with leading zeros. In Artisan, you can choose the number of leading zeros. If you choose 4 zeros, then you can have almost 10,000 products for each vendor in our example. You can adjust the number of zeros if that's too much or not enough. So this numbering with a vendor plus a 4-digit padded number is the default numbering scheme. But just because it's the default doesn't make it right for you. Although you can get Artisan to renumber your items after the fact, if you put printed labels on your products, it's rather inconvenient to renumber after the fact, so let's choose carefully now. You can have Artisan simply assign a unique number, which is fine and can work very well under some circumstances. However, you can build meaning in the code if you want. Click on the pull-down choice for the item code numbering scheme. You will see several choices. Just keep in mind that item codes have a limit of 25 characters and that when you concatenate everything together, it must not be too long. So keep the category codes and the vendor codes short. You would also want to allow for items with variants. Variants are color and size, for example. So if you have various colored t-shirts in different sizes, this all gets combined into the item code. An example of this might be ABC0001-blue-XL for a blue shirt in extra large. So when you are creating the variants, keep in mind the size of the various components. You can control whether or not you use dark navy or DK in AV, for example. Remember, this is just the code. The description can say dark navy. Please check out the video on variant attributes for more details on how to create variants in Artisan. So another important thing to talk about is the Artisan barcodes. For every item, Artisan will generate a numeric private barcode. This is particularly useful on smaller labels. Barcodes with letters are typically wider, so we use this technique to allow a barcode on these small labels. Some of the labels we manufacture are very tiny, as in 3/4 of an inch by 7/16 of an inch. So for a barcode to be able to fit on this label, it must be as compact as possible. You can control the length of this code to either 5, 6, or 7 numbers. You can also effectively turn off this feature by specifying to use the item code instead. This puts the responsibility of keeping those codes short enough on the users. Since there are item code numbering schemes that are just numeric, there must be a way to only have one series of numbers. If your item code numbering is set to 6-digit number, make sure that you also set the barcode numbering to use item code. Another special item numbering scheme starts with a specific number. When you make this choice, a hint will point you in the direction of where to type in that starting number. Unfortunately, for reasons way too boring to discuss here, that number is stored with the rest of the starting numbers under General Business Settings. The last inventory numbering choice is category code. Most users leave this to the default and let a human pick which code is best. If you prefer to use a number, one can be automatically assigned if you change this setting. Remember that shorter is often better because it fits better on reports and on the screen. Here are some great examples of category codes. Also note that you can change your category code at any time. The only time this might be a problem is if you're using the category code as part of your item code. So that wraps up the inventory numbering. Other automatic numbering options are for the starting number ranges, like when you order checks from the bank. What number do those checks start with? You can specify the starting sales slip numbers, purchase order numbers, gift cards, and more. There's also the setting for customer ID. We'll cover more on this in another video. So, okay, thanks for watching and let us know if you have any questions.